Okay, so we're going to start really quick with the McCulloch versus Maryland case. So this case was in Maryland between James W. McCulloch and the state of Maryland. The background for this case is that the first bank of the United States was established to serve as the central bank for the company. And what happened is that the states felt that the federal government was exerting too much power over them by attempting to inhibit the practice of issuing more paper money than they actually had. So the problems that led to this case were that Maryland attempted to close the Baltimore branch of the national banks by passing a law that would force all banks that were outside of the state to pay a yearly tax. James McCulloch, the administrator of this Baltimore branch, refused to pay for the tax because he thought that he didn't have to pay taxes to the federal government. The defendant in this case was Andrew McCulloch, and he refused to pay for the tax set forth by the state of Maryland because he said that Maryland didn't have the power, noting that it didn't explicitly say this in the Constitution, but his attorneys argued that the establishment of the national bank was necessary and proper, but it was not explicitly stated in the powers of the Constitution. So the plaintiff of this case was Maryland. They noted that the necessary and proper clause allowed Congress to make laws as they see fit, and they could not create a national, or they could create a national bank if they saw fit. They also said that there's nothing in the Constitution that restricts the power of the Congress, and that they have put into power that we can't restrict that. And finally, the Supreme Clause prohibits states to interfere with federal jurisdiction or law. So why did this case go to the Supreme Court? This case went to the Supreme Court because McCulloch and his attorneys appealed the rulings in his home state because he wanted to win. So the Supreme Court agreed to hear this case because it was going to set precedent for the necessary and proper clause in the Constitution. The primary constitutional question raised by the participants in the case was that the federal government had the power over the state government. In this case, the court ruled that Congress had the power to create a national bank, and Maryland could not tax the federal government. They decided this because the national government has power over the state government. The actual vote count was 7-0, 7 towards the national government. The dissenting opinion in this case was written by Chief Justice Marshall, as the vote was unanimous. The impact that this case had on America was that it set a precedent over the necessary and proper clause and gave the federal power most importance. We already did that. This case was settled fairly because the federal government clearly has power over the state government.